A Luddite, somebody who is seen as being afraid of technology. But is this really all the Luddites ever were? Did they just fear technology? Or was there more reasons these individuals became violent? In this video, we will explore the Luddite movement and its activities, as well as the resulting legacy that still stands today and is once again being reflected in people's fears as automation and AI continue to expand into the working environment. The Luddite movement is said to have begun in Nottingham in the East Midlands, with many of the original meetings occurring in the caves that have long been used and habituated under the city, even rumoured at one point to have been used by Robin Hood and his merry men. The origins of the term Luddite is a more difficult thing to identify. It is traditionally rumoured to have come from an individual known as General, or King Lud, the leader of the Luddites. But this has since been shown to likely be imaginary. Instead, the basis for this name is thought to derive from a real person, a man named Ned Ludd, who was an apprentice who destroyed 2 stocking frames in 1779 after being whipped for idleness. Again, it is unclear as to whether this story is true or not, with the only evidence being traced to an article in the Nottingham Review in 1811, over 30 years after the incident. Regardless of the factual basis, Ludd evolved to become an almost mythical figure, with many parallels drawn to another famous Nottingham rebel in Robin Hood, with some even claiming Ludd also lived in Sherwood Forest. At this time, however, there was generally little disloyalty within the lower classes to the king or government, in part due to the harsh repercussions of violent actions. Therefore, the individuals who were involved in the Luddite movement clearly felt under threat from the rise in technology, and felt their way of life as threatened. As with most uprisings or rebellions across history, these individuals felt they would be unable to meet their basic needs, such as housing and food, if they did not fight against this threat. The true movement appears during the Napoleonic Wars, as the French Emperor ravaged Europe. For the average person within Britain, this created a perfect storm. Firstly, as automation within the textile industry started to increase, many previously skilled individuals lost jobs, with those now in the textile industry being lower skilled and critically having lower working conditions. Combined with this increase in unemployment, the war exacerbated financial troubles, with food shortages leading to rising wheat prices, meaning many now found themselves going hungry. For many, this led to an easy conclusion. The new machines were causing them to lose their homes, jobs, and making them go hungry. The Luddites therefore primarily objected to these machines. As a result, the Luddites began to do what they are most well known for, destroying industrial equipment. Textile workers began to destroy stocking and cropping frames and other industrial equipment as weavers burnt down mills across the Midlands and north of England. These activities give the impression of a well-organised group. However, at no point does it appear that this was a national operation. Instead, it was small groups in key locations operating independently of each other. This does not mean there was no organisation, with groups meeting at night on the nearest moors to practice drills and manoeuvres. Instead, it points to it being localised groups being inspired by each other. The key areas for Luddite activity were Nottinghamshire from November 1811, West Riding and Yorkshire from 1812, and Lancashire from March in 1813. Alongside destroying machines, Luddites also applied other tactics, including sending death threats to different individuals such as factory owners, magistrates, and food merchants. In some cases, these threats were acted upon and individuals were attacked. The end of the movement appeared as quickly as the movement itself, with a generally deemed end after the Pentric Rising in 1817, led by a Nottingham stockinger and probable ex-Luddite Jeremiah Brandreth. It should be noted that this uprising was generally unrelated to the Luddite known machinery destruction, and instead was an armed uprising in its own right, but included many Luddites in its ranks. The uprising was quickly quelled, as among the 300 men in the uprising was a government spy, forewarning of the group's actions, with Jeremiah and 2 others put to death. During the late 18th century, the government began to implement policy to protect machinery as a result of destruction cases, such as that of Ned Ludd. An example includes the protection of stocking frames in 1788. The legislation, however, was not overly effective, as many Luddites were protected by their communities, leading to very few arrests or executions. Therefore, the government decided to take a more heavy-handed approach, with the army clashing with Luddites many times. Unbelievably, at one point during the Napoleonic Wars, there were more soldiers fighting the Luddites than there were fighting Napoleon in the Iberian Peninsula. Despite this response, not all in the government were against the movement, with Lord Byron a key supporter of the Luddites, denouncing in the House of Lords the plight of the working class and the ruthless repression from the government and its policies. Another attempt to stop the Luddites using the law was introduced in 1812, making machine breaking a capital crime, which once again Lord Byron opposed, becoming one of the few prominent defenders of the Luddites. Using this new power, the government sought to suppress the Luddite movement using a mass trial in York in 1813, following an attack on a mill. Over 60 men were charged with various crimes, with some of these 60 not connected to the Luddite movement in any way. 30 of them were acquitted, many due to lack of evidence. Those that were found guilty, on the other hand, suffered harsh punishments, with many executed or suffering penal transportation to colonies. In large, this heavy-handedness surprisingly worked, with the movement rapidly dying out before the largely now viewed end of the Pentric Rising. Nowadays, the term Luddite is often used to describe someone opposed to new technologies without much thought to the origin. As we are undergoing a rapid change in technology, with automation and AI taking jobs, it appears that we could be coming to a similar situation to what occurred 200 years ago. Economists use the term Luddite Fallacy in reference to this fear. However, economically speaking, this should not be a concern, and bear with me as I go into my degree knowledge to explain why. Technological advancements lead to what is called technological unemployment, where individuals are replaced by AI or robots. This in turn leads to structural unemployment, where those in the workforce do not have the skills that jobs require, and therefore there are macroeconomic injuries. These technological advancements, however, should drive down the price of the product being created, as they do not have to be paid to work as the previous employees did, removing a cost of production. The decrease in production costs should therefore lead to price decreases, making the product accessible to more people, which in turn increases the demand for the product. To meet this demand, employers therefore need to hire more employees, removing the employment gap. Whilst the number of jobs should stay the same, what you instead get is a shift in the skills required, which is always ongoing, with existing workers either retraining or leaving the workforce, and new workers filling the skills gap. Regardless of your views on the Luddites, this is just one of many examples throughout history where people fear for their ability to live. They strike back at the surface cause. This again could soon be coming to the forefront, as AI and technologies look to rapidly replace humans in work, and without options for these individuals to retrain, we could once again see people taking anger out on these machines. Thank you for watching. From my statistics, I can see only 2% of you are subscribed, so if you got this far, please consider subscribing or checking out one of my other videos. And I wish you a great rest of the day.